Hey everyone, in this video I'll be showing you a crazy overpowered build for Gragu in Mortal Shell 2 that can get our attack speed really quickly. We can get 30 stacks of warp by using a cool combination of two different Tarstones that allow us to multi-hit on the scythe. So you can see here, we can actually swing this thing really quickly. I only have it upgraded to +2 just to show off how powerful this thing gets, and it's absolutely absurd with the Bloodcurse. And there's actually two Tarstones here that are very interesting. The Scholar's Wormstone, which lets you swing, the scythe will basically have a chainsaw spinning at all times that multi-hits, which can trigger our abilities multiple times. It's insane. Or the Clockwork Shardstone, which turns it into a pizza cutter. And there are 4 different weapons that I think work really well here with the Axe, Iconoclast, Axe and Dagger, and Clockwork Scythe. And to make things better, there's actually a build that we'd be using for bossing as well as mobbing. There is obvious downsides to playing as Gragu as he doesn't use the heals as normal. That does provide us a nice benefit here with Hunger once you get him to tier 4, which gives you a 60% critical hit chance, which is absurdly powerful. That actually helps out quite a bit. So for his skill tree here, he also has Maniac, which will deal additional damage to enemies you've never killed before. I would recommend only equipping this for bosses because a boss is technically an enemy you've not killed before, which gives you that 140% damage boost. But one cool thing is Hard Work here, which gives you Bloodcurse immunity. The most important part about this is whenever you inflict Bloodcurse, you get a 3% chance to fully replenish your hearts. This isn't like super necessary, but it can be nice if you're going against a boss because we have a weapon that can attack really quickly and potentially stack this up and give us the heals. This isn't super necessary though. I will talk about some other options, but with this, we would also like to grab Anger. This is going to make it so that we apply weak and fragile. Fragile is a really good bonus, and that's what makes Teal so good is he can apply this really quickly, but this just allows our punches to apply both weak and fragile, so we take less damage and we deal more damage. I also like to use Bloodlust here. Just a single point is all that's necessary so that when you heal, you have a 200% increase to your next melee attack. Now, if this is your last Revenant Heart, Revered Heart, what's crazy about that is you got the Hunger and Bloodlust going together, so a 200% damage increase and a 60% crit chance. Crit chance is one of the best ways to increase your damage in this game. So I like to go with the Hard Work here for bossing, but if you're going against general mobbing, Bloodthirst will give you additional Revered Hearts from taking out enemies, which is obviously quite nice. You can also take some points. I do have points in Harvest here, which gives us more health from the Revered Hearts because they just don't do a whole lot of any healing. So you can take those points out and put them into Attunement here, which will make your Staggering Blow cost less, and then put more points into the damage of it. This is good, but I'll be honest, the last few bosses in the game don't give you time to use your punches. So this can be a bit of a waste, and that's why I'd actually recommend going with a little bit of a different approach here. But the nice thing about this although is the Staggering Blow, you get 4 uses of it and increase to their damage. You also are applying debuffs on it, and then you also, after attacking, get that critical hit chance boost, which is nice. The good thing about the punches is it will stagger a lot of bosses. So that is nice. There is also 3 points in the Bloodlust, which works well too. So this will give you warp stacks when you use a Revered Heart. However, we get 30 stacks of warp like immediately, and that's how you saw we were swinging that weapon around really quickly. So for general bossing, you can go with this setup here, or you can lead into the one that I showed at the start with Hard Work, max out at 3, and then putting 3 points into Harvest there so you get a bit more heals. Although I just find that going with a Staggering Blow ended up working out a lot better. Fortify can work because it will give you Revered Hearts whenever you rest at a beacon, which can be nice to activate the warp stacks on Bloodlust, but again, we get warp stacked really quickly with this setup that we don't really need it, so I find that this works very well. And this is at level 50, which I didn't even hit in my first playthrough going through the game. So with this setup, you basically want to spam your punches as much as possible, and on bosses that aren't affected by your punches, we're going to use it for the debuffs and then mostly use our weapon abilities and Tarstones. But as mentioned, we have 4 weapons that fit this build very well. Clockwork Scythe, which I really enjoy in this setup here, as well as the Axe and Dagger. These would be my top 2 picks. I also like the Iconoclast here. It works very well for him. I'm a big fan of the Black Needle. It just doesn't fit onto this build well. And the Veteran's Battle Axe, which has a Tarstone that lets you throw this weapon. Now for our offhand, I really like the Nail Shot on this just because we can use it with a certain Tarstone. We get Bloodcurse on it, which again can give you your heals back, and it's also going to do an insane amount of damage. Other choices being like Forgotten Crossbow or the Triarch Repeater. But this brings us to our Tarstones, and this is where it all comes together. Because with the Tarstone that's going to give us Bloodcurse on our ranged weapon here, so this Vile Tongue Hedron, we need to get critical hits. So one of the most important, in my opinion, for support Tarstones is to grab the Marksman Stone, which gives us increased critical hit chance on our ranged weapon attacks. 15% chance is pretty solid. This will allow us to apply Bloodcurse from range. but most importantly, in my opinion, is critical hit damage from the Headsman Stone, because we have a 60% crit rate. So getting 100% critical hit damage, that's obviously very good. I do have a separate guide on how to find this Tarstone. You want to grab it as soon as possible. As well as you'd want to have the Auspicious Stone, which will give you an 18% melee critical hit chance, which again is very nice as well, so that can give you a good amount of crit damage. I would also highly recommend grabbing the Berserker Stone because he is going to be low in health often. This will give you 165% melee damage when your health is below 50%, which it will be often, which is an incredible group of support Tarstones here. So I would highly recommend using all 4 of these. Now into the combat Tarstones, this is where the Thief Stone really shines, because you get 5 warp stacks per strike. If you hit multiple people with the scythe, it's going to give you multiple stacks, making the scythe attack really fast. This is really important because this has a very slow attack rate. This works great on the axe as well, but basically we want to have this so that we can apply our Bloodcurse a little bit quicker. You obviously can't use the very overpowered Duality Stone on this setup, but if you want to use the axe and dagger, it'd be best to use the Duality Stone for the axe and dagger. And you can use Axatana too, but the axe and dagger will give us the Bloodcurse that we want. Otherwise, using the Thief Stone will give us a fast attack. Now, I also like to have the Enfeebling Stone on the shotgun here, which will make the target take additional weapon damage, which is obviously really good. Our punches do that as well, but sometimes it's easier to fire off a shotgun versus firing off your fists. Now for the infusions. This is one of the earliest. You get this from the boss right at the very first beacon you go to. Arbiter's Prize will apply Bloodcurse, and once you get to tier 3, it is permanent. This is only available to the Scythe, Axe and Dagger, and Iconoclast. With the Axe and Dagger having duality, that is incredible, or using Warp on the Iconoclast or the Revenant Scythe here. Now, it is fun to mess around with Frost, as that's pretty strong. It's kind of Eredrim's realm. But you can go with a burn setup on the axe. Burn damage is nice because it'll stagger little enemies, but it won't do a thing to bosses. So that's why I recommend Arbiter's Prize. Bloodcurse damage is massive. It's like Bleed from Elden Ring. It's crazy. And that's why we're throwing it on our sidearm as well with the Vile Tongue Hedron here. You can use the Cursed Child. It just doesn't have, it's a wider weapon. It hits a larger range, but it doesn't do the same damage as the shotgun. Which takes us to our ability too, because the Vile Tongue Hedron works very well with Fusillade Stone. This gives us increased critical hit chance and damage on our shots too, which fires off a multitude of shots. It's insanely powerful on this setup. I highly recommend using it. But also, as mentioned, Scholar's Wormstone. This will activate and make it so that your weapon's going to continually deal a little extra damage. So by doing this, you just press X here so you can see that our scythe there is spinning around. You will see on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen that this will drain your resolve pretty quickly. So you want to get to using it and using it to hit multiple times to get your warps up, as it really does a good job with the Thief Stone. The other choice is a Clockwork Shard Stone, which kind of just turns it into the pizza cutter if you played Elden Ring. So you go with this here and you just hold it out like it's a pizza cutter and it's just going to spin and attack like that, which is multi-hit too. Only downside being is that this one doesn't give you the warp stacks like the Scholar's Wormstone would. But the Axe and Dagger, I actually like quite a bit because you don't have to worry about warp because this is going to attack really fast. So with the Axe and Dagger, you're again going to want to use the Duality Stone. Hitting twice is insane. I don't know why they put this in the game. It is just best in slot as far as I'm concerned. It's you can't even compete with it. You can also put the Bloodcurse on it again, so double hitting for double Bloodcurse. And Magdalena's Memento. You do have to beat Magdalena here, but this will give us weak on this, and each strike will get increased crit damage by 100%. So obviously when we have a very high crit chance, and we're going to do a lot of damage when our crits are boosted so much. We already have 100% from the other Tarstone. This gives a further 100% on this attack here. And again, keeping it with the Fusillade Stone. And for our active and passive items, now I do have a guide on how you can grab the Mango, which will give you a 50% instant heal. So that's a really nice thing on this character because you're going to take damage. Having at least one heal against boss is amazing. So check out the pinned comment on how to get the Mango. And on your New Game Plus, it can restore upwards of 100% and also can turn you into mangoes, which is pretty funny. I also would recommend having a passive Grisha Remnant. This is absurd though. I do have a guide on how to get infinite amounts of these. It's crazy. This will break the game until they patch it out, which is likely to come. So you can also throw on like the Sheep Head Totem. If you don't have the Mango, an active Moonshine will give you Resolve, which is super useful. The Sheep Head basically just reduce the amount of damage or amount of health that enemies will have. Or you can also use the Well Cap, which will give you a heal over time. And if you have this as your passive, it can actually, if you get 100 Well Caps, it can restore you to max. But as far as combat goes, this is Magdalena's Memento there, which can apply weak on everyone. And you see it does a good amount of blood damage there on everybody. So When they're weak, they aren't going to do as much damage, and they also take a ton of damage from the bleed, so that's really where this shines. But you also have your punches, and those are a big core component of his ability. This does take time to charge up properly, so this is bad against late game bosses. And the thing is, with this setup, with the axe and dagger, we attack really quickly, so it's really a benefit for us to do running attacks, because you do go in and do a pretty solid attack there whenever you go in running. So the sprinting attacks for the axe and dagger are really nice. This enemy just poked me there and took me out of it a little bit, but yeah, you want to get into a habit of sprinting often in this game because the sprint attacks are very generous. But you see there, we're putting Bloodcurse on everyone. We got a crit off on that guy with our gun, so we got another going off there, so that is amazing. I have full hearts right now, so I'm going to remove those. Once you lose all your hearts, you get that crazy crit chance, so you just cut through everyone immediately, because crits in this game do insane amounts of damage. So yeah, you can just hit insanely hard, and you will be constantly regaining hearts, so that's why he's a mobbing monster, because you're just basically going to keep spamming those. Use your Magdalena's memento. Yeah, that just shredded him immediately. So Gragu is pretty overpowered. He does struggle sometimes against bosses, but that's where that crit damage comes into effect. I do have guides for some of the other characters like Aerodrim or Teal. Teal's probably the true best in this game, so you can check those out if you're curious, but Gragu is a great time and a mobbing beast. So subscribe if this video is useful, and we'll catch you guys all in the next one.